So, hello everyone. People will also join us after. My name is Franz. I am one of the core team members of Nellis. I organize the call and the webinar of today. Today we are with OMLA fellow, Sher Shah, 1 million leader Asia. Hello, Sher Shah from Pakistan. Nice to see you. Yes, we have time to tell us more about you today. Today, as you will see, we will speak about SDGs and grassrooted initiative or small enterprise, which means that we will talk about us because the most of us are doing this kind of work. So we are all very interested and by this very useful, I will say, session for all. Let me just share some slide as now, if I may, just a second. Here we go. That's the title of today, SDGs for Small Enterprises and Grassroots Initiative. We are with Sher Shah Khan Bangash. I hope I said it well, from Pakistan. So just to tell you also before we start that this is a webinar organized and powered, I will say, by the new big program of Nellis, the 1 Million Leaders app. It's a mobile application. At Nellis, we said, okay, we have a lot of interesting people around us, a lot of people who want to be supported, a lot of people who want to support other people. So a lot of young leaders doing things and looking for inspiration or for support of any kind. Why not to put all of this in a mobile application? And the main idea around this is that for $1 a month, you can support hundreds of young leaders like Sher Shah that you will see today in the world. There are four main, let's say, big values of the OML app. The first one is to empower, because we are growing movement of next gen sustainability leaders from Latin America, Africa, Arabic countries, and Asia, with the objective of having 1 million leaders in each of those continents by 2030, which is real objective. It's not for fun, it's not just narratives. We really aim for that. The second main aspect is to witness. Let's say that through the app, by being a partner of the app, you can follow and support the activities of those young entrepreneurs or social innovators, and we already have those and them from more than 50 countries worldwide, so you can get inspired in your own perspective and context. Through the app, you can also learn because the OML app can provide you a learning space with more than 40 micro trainings from and for the OML fellows and other social innovators worldwide. Very interesting micro training when you are doing stuff yourself. And finally, here we are today. The app helps you to belong. Belong to what? Belong to the same community of people who share the same mindset, but also a diversity of views in the world, like we will see today with Sher Shah from Pakistan, and to share the same community events. We are having more than 30 annual community events online the first year, and this is one of them today with Sher Shah. That's it for the OML app. You can visit us at omlap.org. Happy to connect and to talk about it and to have you as new partners of the app. So just now we start with Sher Shah. I think I want you, and I'm not the only one, to know a bit more about you personally before entering into the details. So Sher Shah, up to you. Can you tell us a bit more about you? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, friends. And that was an awesome introduction to the OML app and how it can help us all. So this is Sher Shah Khan. I'm a development professional, also a scholar in development studies. And I've been working in the SDG space, especially because my degree was all about the SDGs since 2015. I graduated in 2015. And at that time, the SDGs were launched. So there were these beautiful pictures, like colorful and everyone was so amazed about them, but I knew the depth because I was coming from the MDGs era too. Because in my degree we were studying the MDGs, and then suddenly the SDGs came. So it was a continuation of the studies that I was focused on. Apart from this, I have been involved in many volunteer and grassroots activities, such as the Movers program by UNDP, which is run from the Bangkok Regional Hub, and its activities spans across the Asia Pacific region. And then I also became part of the youth empowerment in climate action platform, so more tilted towards climate recently. And then also became an organizer of the first local conference of youth in Pakistan, and now heading to Dubai for the COI 18 as a delegate from Pakistan, and also the country contact point. So this year has been really good, especially because I would also credit the OMLAS fellowship here. It really amplified whatever I wanted to achieve in my life with the project that we launched as Skillistan. And Skillistan has great future. Right now, I'm daily getting collaboration offers to do workshops here, there, and we'll be reaching out to everywhere. So this was some of my educational endeavors. Apart from this, I'm also a young dad of three, which is a really difficult job in itself, having three babies. So three jobs are there already. And apart from this, my family, I come from a humble family. My parents are both professors, they're doctors. So that teaching instinct, that has been transferred to me. And I am trying my best to share whatever my learnings are with others, whether through online things, offline, or even hybrid ones. So with this, I guess you'll hear more from me in between the lecture. Let's share the slides now, I guess. Will I be sharing the slides, right?
Yeah. Just a second, Sher Shah. Thank you for this introduction. It would be great also to have your point of view from Pakistan on all of those things. We are very fortunate to have someone from there in this kind of countries who do not have sometimes visibility in the sustainability sector, while we have amazing people like you doing some stuff. Let me just share one slide to show to the audience the program. Please, just a second. Here we are. So we have Sher Shah speaking soon, learning inspiration for 15-20 minutes, let's say. Then we will have a panel of discussion. We have prepared some questions. I remind you that for part 1 and part 2, you can always have some questions in the chat. With Peter David, who is also here present, we will share them with Sher Shah. So it's an interactive session. Please, on the chat, ask your comments and questions. And at the end, we have more interaction with the participants with a small surprise activity that could be very useful for all of us by Sher Shah. So, Sher Shah, now up to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So let me share the slides. Just a second. Perfect. I hope it's visible now.
Perfect.
Okay, so we're here with an introduction kind of to the Sustainable Development Goals, and especially tailored to small enterprises and grassroots initiatives, as we are all largely part of, or even if we have big enterprises, we all start with small enterprises and grassroots initiatives. So this is Skillistan, which is our project under the OMLAS Fellowship. And again, OMLAS is a flagship project of Nellis Global, and it has 4 regions: OMLA, Africa, OMLAS for Asia, and the one for Middle East and North Africa, and then the last one for Latin America. So with this, we aim to upskill 1 million leaders from across the 4 regions of the world. So here I am from Asia, from Pakistan, being upskilled by OMLAS, and I'm sharing some of my learnings, especially related to SDGs and small enterprises and grassroots initiatives. So the objectives for today, for these 20 minutes and even the panel discussion, are that first of all, we have to explore the power of SDGs for small enterprises and grassroots initiatives. Many people don't even know how powerful it could be to align yourself to the SDGs. Then secondly, we would discover some practical strategies on leveraging the SDGs to drive positive change, even in small scale setups. So usually there's a misconception that the SDGs are not for small scale setups. Maybe they are just country specific things, or they're related to governments or the UN. So, and finally, we will explore some real world examples, small, big, and we'll try to, categorize them into SDGs and how they can benefit from SDGs. So a practical exercise would be good for learning. So let's jump into the slides. I hope all of the participants over here would have seen the slide before. This is my favorite slide, by the way. And so this is where we all begin, right? The SDGs, we look at them, we think they are some global goals, and though we can do something about them, but largely there is a misconception. I would like to share one misconception. One of my recent workshop participant came to me and she was like, sir, can I use these SDGs for my social media posts? Do I need permission from the UN? And I was like, no, 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 it's not like these are the UN's goals, though we usually say the UN SDGs, right? So the UN has been behind them. The UN has worked collectively with all countries around 2015 to come up with these goals. But these goals are as much mine or yours as they are the UN's or of our government. So first of all, we have to clear this misconception. Then just to quickly take you through the goals, they are different and interrelated at the same time. So why did the UN have to come up with 17 goals? Why the 17 number? People usually ask me this. We'll know more about this in the upcoming slides, but we needed a balance between the major three schools of thoughts that were behind all the development debate. So to tell you what the three schools were, we'll be talking about that in the upcoming slides. But first, the 5 principles that are driving these goals. Before these goals were conceived, they had to come up with certain principles that would be driving these goals. And they were, number one, universality. So if you remember the MDGs were not universal in this way, that they were mainly focused on poorer countries. And here the SDGs, no country can say we are above the SDGs. Like, for example, if the US says they are the most developed country in the world, they're not. Even they have to do more to achieve the SDGs, or any other country for that matter. Then secondly, we need multi-stakeholder partnerships for the goals. This is an important principle, and that's why we have a separate goal for this too. We'll discuss it more. Then inclusiveness. So all the people, no matter they're disabled, no matter it's women that are usually looked at from a biased angle from different development initiatives in the past. So this is all about inclusiveness. We have to include everyone. And then integratedness. So usually people say we are focusing on a few goals, or countries say. For example, I have this criticism of Pakistan that they had our government basically put all the SDGs into 3 priority areas, priority 1, 2, and 3. And SDG 13 was in the 3rd priority. And look what happened. Last year, we witnessed a floods to 2022. It's called super flood, and it just wiped off years of progress regarding the SDGs. So how can you put things like SDG 13 on the back burner. If you do, it's going to hurt back. So this is how, just to share an example, that SDGs are very integrated. You cannot ignore anyone. And then my favorite principle, that's why I left it for the last one, it's leaving no one behind, usually called LNOB. So leaving no one behind, or leaving no SDG behind, I would say, is the main principle. We can't just live in a world, and we cannot call it sustainable, if there are millions of poor people, if there are millions of children out of school. Just in Pakistan alone, we have 22.8 million children out of school right now. So just imagine what would their future be. Even right now, someone who is not educated, they cannot understand what we are talking about. So imagine in the future a world driven by AI, a world so advanced, and then we have on the other hand people who don't know how to read and write. So this is all about leaving no one behind. Let's go to the 5 pillars that I was talking about, and this is really important. Usually people don't know about this, but this would help you remember all the SDGs and categorize them into how they are into these 17 goals that they are now. So these are called 5 P's based on peace, partnership, planet, people, and prosperity. So each of the 17 goals can be basically categorized into these P's, and we'll know more about this over here. So this is my creation. I made a P out of it so that everyone can remember it and then categorize. So if you're talking about people-centric goals, right? So goal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they're people-centric goals. Then if you come to prosperity-centric goals, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, the 3 I's, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities. And then if we talk about the planet-centric goals, so these are, okay, if you want to remember them, just bring the 6 here and 12, 13, 14, 15. So these are the planet-specific goals. 12, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, and life on land. And then finally, the 2 overarching goals, the most important ones. Without them, I guess I usually say this is like a pillar, right? So if this pillar falls, this whole building would fall. So peace, the P has its own goal, peace, justice, and strong institutions. And then partnerships for all of these goals. Very important. Even today, you can say this is a partnership for the goals, right? NLU, Skillistan, and all of you are partnering to learn about the SDGs and then maybe apply them in your grassroots initiatives. Very important goals. This is how you remember and categorize all the goals. And if you're working, say, for example, in the people sphere, so these are your goals. If you're working on the prosperity sphere, you have to choose from these goals. But it's not like you are limited to one P. You can also be working for all of the Ps. Say, for example, from Skillistan's platform, we are coming up with workshops for each of the individual SDGs to raise awareness about them. So that is how we are working for all the goals. So let's quickly jump to why are the SDGs so important for small enterprises and grassroots initiatives. Like their importance on the global level is somewhat understood, but for small enterprise and grassroots initiatives, it's largely misunderstood. The first thing I would say is you get the right words for the causes you care about. So for example, if you're working on poverty or you're feeding the poor, but you don't know about SDG 1 and SDG 2, and you're not reporting it that way, you're not telling your audiences that you're working for SDG 1 and SDG 2, that means you don't get that much of attention for what you're doing, the one you deserve actually, because you're working towards the larger global goals with your local initiatives. So this is how I've been helping people to align with the goals. They're doing the right things. For example, if you are planting trees, right? So you don't know that you're actually working for climate action SDG 13, or you're also supporting SDG 15 with planting trees, because planting trees means improved biodiversity with them. Then the second most important thing I would say is that they are a common language for all humans on earth. For example, if I am quoting some SDGs that I am contributing to, everyone understands that. The development sector people understand, donors understand that. But if I'm not using the right language, the common language of SDGs, then I might be missing on a lot of opportunities. So this is why the SDGs are very important for even your small enterprises and grassroots initiatives. Then usually people don't even read beyond the 17 goals. And it's quite unfortunate, but if you have to align with them, it's not just the larger goals, you have to fish from the 169 targets, which targets you are linked to. So I just brought a few examples for a short time, because we have a short time over here. But SDG 4.7, for example, it talks about education for sustainable development and global citizenship. 6.1, safe and affordable drinking water for all. 8.3, promote policies to support job creation and growing enterprises. Target 9C. So wherever you see an ABC, that means this is a qualitative target. And wherever there is a 1, 2, 3, that means it's a quantitative target. So this one talks about universal access to information and communications technology. And then target 13.3, very important for nowadays, build knowledge and capacity to meet climate change. So the purpose of telling you about a few of these examples was that you have to go beyond the goals in order to align with the targets. And that's where you'll find the right words for your causes. For example, 4.7, and I'll just go into the details of 4.7 because my project Skillistan is actually working towards 4.7. And that's how I got the right language from this goals, from this targets text. So it talks about by 2030, ensure all learners acquire knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development, including, among others, through education for sustainable development, sustainable lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and nonviolence, global citizenship, and appreciation of cultural diversity and of culture's contribution to sustainable development. So when I'm teaching about the SDGs right now, I'm actually contributing to 4.7. So this is how it gives me the right language, the right targets that I am contributing to. And for all of your small scale initiatives and enterprises, there would be targets that you are contributing to. So you have to fish them. Then let's go beyond these targets. So usually beyond these targets, very rarely people read, right? But there are 232 unique indicators to measure SDGs progress and how small enterprises and grassroots initiatives can fill the gap. This is a huge gap in terms of data right now. And the SDGs, as you would know, they're being tracked. There's an SDG index where countries are being tracked based on the data that we are getting. So in some countries, there's lack of data, or someone is working towards these goals, but it's not being reported. For example, 13.3.1. So the target that we saw, 13.3, this one, it has an indicator too. And it talks about number of countries that have integrated mitigation, adaptation, impact reduction, and early warning into primary, secondary, and tertiary curricula. So for example, if I am a small enterprise, I'm working in the climate space, and here comes, and it actually came a few days ago, an opportunity like this came, and it was an INGO that wanted to work on this area for Pakistan. And a lot of small enterprises were invited to contribute towards this, and they wanted to see whether our primary, secondary, or tertiary curriculum has these things or not. So this is how you find, the right words, you find the right places to contribute to fill the gap within these SDGs, their targets and indicators. So let's move on to some practical things. How do we find our relevant SDGs and their targets? So we can only do that with practice. Like if you had asked me maybe 10 years ago, no, not 10, 8 years ago when the SDGs came, even I wouldn't know this. But with practice, everything can be perfected. So let's do a few practice things, okay? So we'll start with the higher level, the government level, bigger projects, and then we'll go to the grassroots projects as well. So for example, there's this project called Sahaj in Nepal, and it is designed with 3 successive phases spanning across 12 years horizon. Sahaj's objectives are based on a vision of a thriving and inclusive agriculture sector, aiming to grow employment and income for Nepal's rural population. So this is a big project, but the purpose of doing this is to help you exercise how to put SDGs with relevant projects. So they are contributing to SDG 1, no poverty, zero hunger, gender equality, because they're targeting more women in this project. Also decent work and economic growth. Finally, it's going to end up in reduced inequalities, and there are many partnerships in this involved for the goals. So they're also contributing to SDG 17. Let's look at another one. So this was a very, very impressive project undertaken in India. It was a national level project, and they had to mobilize whole communities towards it. Even grassroots initiatives and small enterprises were involved in it. So what did they do? They basically contributed to SDG 6.2, which aims for adequate and equitable sanitation access for all, especially women and girls. And 100 million household toilets were constructed and benefiting 500 million people across 630,000 villages. This was huge. How did they do this? Definitely by involving grassroots initiatives, even small enterprises in it. And the purpose here is to tell you that, okay, it directly contributed to maybe one goal, clean water and sanitation, but there's also indirect contribution to other goals, because without the open defecation and all, now there's good health and well-being. And because they're targeting women especially, so this is also contributing to gender equality and reduced inequalities, because having sanitation access definitely improves your standard of living. And then finally, sustainable cities and communities is also linked. So this is how you categorize into direct contributions towards the goals and indirect contributions towards the goals. Now giving you an example from Pakistan, this is one of the best projects that was launched by the last government of Imran Khan, and it's still ongoing. Almost 4 to 5 billion trees have been planted under this project. And the trees that you see over here in the background photo, these are part of this project. So this was a barren land just beside a river, and now it's a green space. So what are they contributing to? Definitely SDG 13 and also SDG 15. So even if you're doing a small scale initiative, maybe planting 500 trees, and you put in your project documents that you're trying to contribute towards SDG 13 or 15, that amplifies your message, and you will be better able to gain support for your project. Let's do a few more examples. Magic Box Mongolia, for example. So this is a good use for the usually left out containers, because we have a lot of containers in our countries. But what did they do with that container? They made a public library in this 40 feet container for remote rural areas, and it directly contributes to SDG 4. let's see a few examples from our fellows. And I would love to talk about this. One of our fellows, Zo, I think he would be here too. He's from Myanmar, and he started with this project. So mind matters, and definitely it matters. So his goal is to empower and enhance the well-being of youth and orphans in Myanmar by integrating leadership principles and indigenous knowledge. So this directly contributes to SDG 3, also to SDG 4, and finally, it helps reduce the inequalities. So if ZO includes these goals in his project documents or in his project reports, he would be able to gather the support of donors, and it would continue into the future. Maybe next year he can have better grants for this, and it continues sustainably. Let's have one more example again from our fellow Taifa from Pakistan. It's called Stitching Wings, and it's a small initiative. The goal is to women empowerment through stitching skills in Gilgit Baltistan, Pakistan. It's the very north of Pakistan, and this is her logo. So what she's doing is she's providing skills along with this stitching machine to women. And what would it contribute to? Definitely gender equality. She's also giving them some way to earn income through decent work and economic growth, and finally reduced inequalities, also indirectly contributing to no poverty and zero hunger, because the women, their earnings, they're definitely going to go towards raising their children, feeding them well. So this is how direct and indirect contributions towards SDGs can be done through better putting these SDGs in your documents. That matters a lot, especially for an informed audience. Like, for example, if someone comes to me to check their project, I would love to see which SDGs, and not just beyond just SDGs. I need to see beyond the SDGs, the targets too. So with this, I guess we can do this exercise maybe later. If Franz, do we have time for this section, or
yeah, we need to finish now to have time a bit after for this section. Don't worry, we can adapt. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do this in the next section.
Thank you. Thank you, Sher Shah. A lot of things. It's very good that you gave examples, mainly from Asian perspective. I think it helps all of us to see how we could do with our own initiatives. Thank you for this very interesting presentation. Very nice slides. I hope everyone could take pictures, etc. So now I have some questions from you. Some are theoretical, some are practical, some are disruptive. Let me share them with you. And again, if you have questions yourself, the participants, please be in the chat. We will be happy with Sher Shah to answer. First question that I have for you. Okay, based on everything that you said, do you have 2 or 3 very practical tips on how, for example, the OML fellows here present could integrate and implement the SDGs despite of their limited resources and capacities, and maybe by answering, you can show us some examples from initiative in Pakistan that were successful in doing that. That's my first question.
Yeah, thank you, friends. I guess I need to share my slides because my slide has the answer for this just by chance.
Please.
So, there are tips in these 2 slides for how to integrate the SDGs in even your small scale initiatives. So usually whatever we are doing in the social entrepreneurship space, it is linked to the SDGs. We just have to find the right words for them. So, there are 17 SDGs, but there are 169 targets. Well, they're all important and interrelated, but some will be more relevant to our business than others, right? So in this section, for example, the section that I have designed for you people, you're going to know about those priority targets and how to demonstrate that they align with your business strategy and goals. So for example, you have this presentation and you're going to present to some donors, potential donors, right? So there should be these things, that priority one, this is just an example, priority one, this SDG 1, say it can be SDG 8, it can be any SDG over here, right? And then you write, for your audience, you give an overview of how, we can include a brief description of the goal, then its relevance to your sector or industry, and then the specific sub targets our organization is addressing. I'm talking again and again about these specific sub targets because usually the SDGs, they are just given, okay, I'm linked to SDG 4. What in SDG 4? Please be specific. That's important because the development sector professionals, they know about the targets. And if you're just going to vaguely say that, okay, I'm linked to SDG 4, they're not going to buy it. But if you go into the details, talk about the sub target over here as well, then you might get more support. And similarly, you put in your second priority SDG and you give your audience how it's linked to your industry and which specific sub targets are you working on. And similarly, SDG, the third priority. Then I'm giving you a practical tool over here. So you asked for 2 or 3 tips, right? So this is a practical tool for that. So what you have to do is, performance goals are very good for monitoring and measuring your progress as well as reporting performance. It could include details such as your indicators identified, the KPIs, then data collected, and SDG related activities accomplished. Clear and concrete performance goals make it easier to generate relevant, consistent, and comparable data over time in formats that your audience can understand and appreciate. Formats are very important. So this is a tool for all of you. You can take a screenshot from here and maybe use it for the future. Just to explain it a bit, your KPI, your key indicator, that is definitely part of your project or your organizational goals. That comes in here, okay? Then the activity / project, add a few details describing the related activities, and this should be linked to the SDGs. And then your data / outcome. What results did you obtain from your project? Write them here. So here's the outcome, the key indicator on the left, and in the middle you put in the activities or projects that are linking these two from the indicator to the outcome. This is how you're going to appeal more to your audiences. That can be your collaborators, that can be your donors, or even your employees. They would love to know if they're doing something for the global goals as well as the local level. So I guess that answers the question.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Very nice tools. Take pictures, everyone. That's very practical. Just another question from you, which is more, how can I say, maybe not exactly philosophical, but more theoretical, let's say. We saw also in the chat with Peter David that the SDGs and also with yourself that are very globally based, and which is very important because maybe the SDGs today are one of the only one language which is common to everyone in the very tense context of today. It's very useful, but still, do you think, Sher Shah, from your Pakistan view, again, that they are adaptable to all of the countries and all of the different realities, including in Pakistan? Yes or no, or maybe in the between?
Yeah, there's no a yes or no answer here, I would say, but I personally believe they're quite ambitious. I agree, they are quite ambitious, and already if we see in 2015, there were vast differences in development between the developed, developing, and maybe the least developed. So that's how we usually categorize the developing situation in the world. But the SDGs, no matter how ambitious they are, I usually tackle this question with this answer, this kind of question, that what would we have if we didn't have the SDGs? would we have a global pathway towards 2030 or maybe beyond? We would be worse off if we didn't have the SDGs. Though the SDGs can be like difficult for some countries, especially Pakistan, we were already far behind, especially because of terrorism, because the from 2001 till 2015-16 we were seeing suicide bombings almost every day. So what to talk about SDGs when the two overarching pillars that I talked about, peace for example, is not there. So if peace is not there, development cannot be there. That's the importance of peace. But we can ensure that the SDGs are, adaptable. They can, just like we said, even for our grassroots initiatives, they can be adopted. So the bigger projects, they can also contribute to the SDGs. And the governments are really important stakeholders here. So I've seen that in areas, even in Pakistan, there's a difference. And for example, we have a federal support unit for the SDGs, and then we have provincial support units for the SDGs. And I believe that the SDG support unit in Sindh, lower in the coastal area, Karachi, the capital of Sindh, they're doing much better than the other provincial SDG support units. So, it's all about how we are tackling these realities. Even within countries, there are stark differences. You cannot put the whole of Pakistan in one figure. There are many differences within Pakistan, and so would be the reality of other countries. It's the governance system that has to be strengthened, and it's not just the government that has to contribute. So usually people think that it's the responsibility of the government. We don't have to do anything for the SDGs, but the SDGs should be a public, private, collective concern, not just a public concern. I hope that answers this question.
Thank you. Yeah, and it links also with my following questions, because when we speak about SDGs, we speak so about progress, success, what's the best life. Are you afraid that most in the current context, which is a tense context, a lot of countries will see the SDGs like a new imperialism to tell us what to do? Or you think they are that global than that we won't have this problem? Can you share some maybe examples on that, or at least your opinion?
Yeah, thank you. It's a complex question, so I'll put it in parts. So many narratives of the SDGs emphasize the notions of progress and success. Definitely, there's this, pressure on all the countries that they have to do better on the SDGs. And I would relate from one of my workshops. So I used to put in the SDG index that is there for every year. It's published by the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, and I hope everyone sees that. Whoever is interested in it, the SDGs, do read, and it's an yearly publication. It basically ranks all the countries based on SDG progress. So last year when I was teaching from it, we were 125th out of the global countries, Pakistan. And this year, we slipped 3 places. We are now 128th. Definitely, it was because of the floods last year. The SDG progress wouldn't talk about that we had a massive, maybe once in a century flood that ruined our whole country. 1/3 of Pakistan was underwater. So it does put pressure on us, on everyone. But if that pressure wasn't there, just imagine for a while, if this success, progress pressure wasn't there, I guess no one would be doing enough. We wouldn't be doing more. So that's important. And are they the same for everyone? Yes, I guess the pressure is the same for everyone. No country can be above the SDGs. Even the most developed countries, we would take an example of the Nordic countries, right? Scandinavian countries. Even they have a responsibility towards the SDGs. Maybe they're doing good in some areas, but then they wouldn't be doing so good. Say, for example, if they're providing enough resources to all their populations, but then their GHG emissions would be high. So there has to be somewhere they have to do more. And about examples to challenge these narratives, I would say I have rather challenged the narratives that are against these SDGs, because I'm very much pro SDG. And then usually they, people say that, oh, this is a UN thing, this is a new imperialism thing, and they're just putting us against each other, or just like Donald Trump said that climate change is a hoax, and it's just to benefit China. But I'm more fighting against these narratives, because it has a history, right? MDGs were there. Now we have SDGs, and people usually say we cannot achieve the SDGs by 2030. Okay, fine. There would be more SDGs. Maybe there would be an SDG plus by from 2030 to 2050. But we cannot abandon the SDGs. They are our blueprint towards a future that is sustainable. And if we can work towards them, especially on the small scale. So I was reading a research paper, and it emphasized specifically about small scale initiatives, not just in Pakistan but around the globe, that this is where we can actually achieve the SDGs. If they are left to the government and to the big NGOs, then sadly the result would be just like the MDGs. But even the MDGs did something, and I would credit especially, say, the number of global poor. So they were by half when the MDG's timeline was getting over. So poverty was reduced by half, and mostly credit to China. But overall, it did help the world fight poverty. I hope that answers this question.
Thank you, Sher Shah. I won't ask you the last question because I would like really us to have 12 minutes or 10, 12 minutes, or even maybe a bit more if needed, for you to present the potential new activities. If some people are interested in the chat, please, up to you, and participants listen well. It can be very useful. Thank you.
Yeah, let me share the slide. So this is a bonus activity for anyone, and I'll be looking at the chat section. Let's relate some projects to the SDGs. Just come up with some project name, or maybe a tagline, so that we can know which area you are working in, and then we can all collectively advise how you can align with some specific goals or targets. And thank you, Peter, for sharing the dashboards. I really love the dashboards, and I read them.
Yeah, everyone, if you have a project, whatever OML project or something next to it, please, you can write it down, and so Sher Shah can make a demonstration at least to show you how we can embed it into the SDGs and vice versa. Please, please.
Okay, Taifa has shared her.
Yeah.
Yeah, Taifa, we did talk about your project a bit, but your project is really innovative. Let's go back to that, or maybe we can have another one. Building marketplace for vendors. So that's a good one. We are actually talking about SDG 8 here. Let me take you to the slide so that everyone, yeah, can see the goals as well. So this is better, I guess. So when you're talking about building a marketplace for vendors, right? So if it's in, say, a city, so you're also contributing to sustainable cities and communities. Maybe the marketplace right now is not in one place, and they're just roaming around in the streets. So if you build a marketplace for vendors and bring them to one place, that also adds to sustainable cities and communities. But most importantly, your direct contribution is towards decent work and economic growth, because you are giving them an opportunity to have a place where they can market their goods or services, whatever they're doing. And I usually see this a problem in our developing world, that the vendors, they just have to roam around the streets and disturb the whole traffic. This is quite common in Pakistan. I hope that is how you can link. Okay, uh, climate smart agriculture. Thank you. So climate smart agriculture directly linked to SDG 2, because you're talking about zero hunger, right? You are contributing to food security with climate smart agriculture. And you're also linked to climate action, SDG 13, because that's where you're fighting the adverse impacts of climate change on agriculture. I hope these two goals are directly linked to you. But if you want to have more specific language for your initiatives, go to see the targets, link the relevant targets from these goals, and maybe they can help you guide your project wordings. Very important. So when I was doing my Skillistan project and I saw SDG 4.7, the target that I shared with you, it gave me more specific language into the things I was doing. It helped me actually write a better project proposal, because I saw the language. Okay, global citizenship. If I'm talking about SDGs to people, I'm actually making them global citizens. So this is how I got the right words, by studying the targets. Okay, any more? Okay, cooperatives. Can you be more, can come up with some more details? Cooperatives for what? I know what cooperatives is, but cooperatives for what? Okay, corporate sustainability management by Peter. So if the corporation is working, if you're talking about a consultant, maybe that's giving corporate sustainability management services. So I guess they're linked to all SDGs, because the firm, they can be working in any SDG, and that's how they can help them in better representing their work in terms of any SDGs. Partnership for funds, a good one, Taifa, but that's not like an organization. uh, you can partner for funds with anyone. And if you are, for example, I usually say this: do quote SDG 17 partnerships for the goals in your projects, because it gives an impression that you're open to cooperation, to partner with other organizations in any of the goals that you've listed in terms of your priority 1, 2, 3, and you also add SDG 17 there. So that would help give an image that you're open to partnerships for these goals. And Acha, Rohit is saying agricultural cooperatives. So if you're working in the agriculture space, you have directly goal 2, and you're also linked to goal 15, because goal 15, it also talks about better land management and all of those things. So that is where you're going to find your right targets if you study these goals a bit more.
And Sher Shah, just a question from me. If we take, for example, the example of Rohit with agricultural cooperatives, once we have determined which SDGs and even targets are linked with this challenge, how the SDGs templates or maybe documents, processes can help Rohit, for example, to deal with the local stakeholders or to deal with the local governments? Is there also a utility after that, after you have determined, or no?
Yes, I guess this template that I gave them, this would work really well with, once you identify the targets and the goals. So because you also put in your KPIs, your organization's key point indicators, then the activities that you've done, which are linked to the SDGs or targets, you also put them here. So it helps your audience, and your audience can be very diverse. For example, we are targeting donors or stakeholders in your industry or in the development space. So if they see that you've done so much homework and you know what you're doing, you know the global goals, you know the global targets, you know your own key point indicators, and you've also linked your small grassroots activities that you've done with those goals, that's how you appeal more. Like if I was sitting there, this would appeal me more, instead of telling me maybe just the goals that, okay, I'm just linked to these goals. No, tell me which details, which targets you're linked to more, and also align your activities, projects to them. Hope this helps.
Okay, thank you. We have 3 minutes left. So if maybe a last project or a comment from a different perspective to end from one of the participants, happy to have this. And then I think, Sher Shah, you can conclude if we don't have the great session. We have a lot of chat also about artificial intelligence and SDGs. On that, it's true that we can use new tools.
Yeah, I really like Peter's, and I was also going to recommend this. So if you're confused which SDGs or targets you're linked to, use ChatGPT. It's not a crime to use ChatGPT, but do read it. Usually people just use ChatGPT and just copy paste it. No, put in your own brain with it as well, and just manage, what its result is. And if you're confused, just ask ChatGPT, in your simple words, I'm doing this project and these are my areas. Just give it some input and it's going to tell you which targets is it linked to, but don't go for its words. Sometimes it's wrong too. I've also used it for this purpose, but sometimes it's wrong too. So do fact check from the dashboards or from the official UNSDG documents where the targets are there, and then fact check whether it's right or not.
Sometimes it can do, you need to check everything. Sometimes it can do what it takes hours to do for us in 30 seconds, which is pretty amazing. So,
Yeah. So with this, I guess my last slide, and my favorite goal, I usually talk about it. It's SDG 17, because when I'm asked, what are your 3 favorite goals or so I say, I don't have 3 favorite goals. I have 1 favorite goal, and it basically has all the other goals under it. Because if you are talking about partnership for the goals, you're covering all the goals. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Just find me on LinkedIn, type in my name, Sher Shah Khan. There would be a B dot. Just send me a connection request. And if you need any help in the future regarding how to align your projects to the SDGs, I'm always there for your questions and concerns. And this is how I actually started this, just to share with all the audience. So a lot of people used to message me on LinkedIn that we're doing this project and which SDGs is it linked to. So it's easy for me, but I know it's difficult for many people because they haven't read about the SDGs in so much detail. So I used to just quickly tell them, okay, you're doing this linked to this SDGs. Now go on, read some more within those SDGs and find your specific targets. So that was all from me. Thank you so much, everyone, and hope to get linked on LinkedIn.
Thank you, Sher Shah, very much for this very practical and useful presentation. You have a very last question from Zoe that you can just copy paste for yourself and answer later to Zoe. Okay, I see a lot of congrats from the participants. Thank you also all who participated today, who connected, who shared, and who listened. So thank you very much, and see you soon for another OML app webinar. Thank you, Sher Shah, again. Thank you, Peter David. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.